What's up, Steelers Nation? Welcome back to the channel, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, we are here grinding, working to bring you the latest news and breakdowns on everything black and gold. The Steelers are a team that never stops trying to get better, to sharpen their game, and bring that 7th Lombardi trophy back to the Burgh. So if you appreciate that effort and you want to stay updated, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. All right, let's get into the hot topic of the day, Steelers fans. The Pittsburgh Steelers have officially signed quarterback Mason Rudolph to a 2-year, $8 million deal. But the real question that's buzzing all over Steelers Nation, is this a sign of bigger things to come or a desperate insurance policy? Because we're striking out on Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson? Yup, you heard that right. While everyone was waiting for a huge announcement, like a Rodgers or Wilson signing, the Steelers decided to bring back Rudolph, a familiar face. Now, let me say this. Mason isn't the big name that fans have been hoping for, but this move says a lot about where this front office's head is at right now. NFL insiders Mike Garafolo and Ian Rappaport broke the news, and let me tell you, it shook up the QB discussion real fast. Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio even pointed out that while Rudolph looks like a backup on paper, he might be Plan B, or even Plan C, if Pittsburgh whiffs on Rodgers and Wilson. Think about that for a second. Mason Rudolph as QB1 in 2025? Steelers Nation, how would you feel seeing number 2 trot out there as the starter in Week 1? Here's where things get even more complicated, folks. According to Mary Kay Cabot, Russell Wilson met with the Cleveland Browns on Thursday and is scheduled to meet with the New York Giants on Friday. That's not a good sign for Pittsburgh, who were banking on him as a prime target. On top of that, Aaron Rodgers has been released by the New York Jets, so he's officially a free agent. But here's the kicker. Rodgers is reportedly intrigued by joining the Minnesota Vikings, according to Diana Rossini and Michael Silver. Let me pause right there. The Vikings? Steelers Nation, if Rodgers goes to Minnesota, that's going to sting. We all thought Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin were laying the groundwork to bring Rodgers to the Steel City, but as of now, he's still on the fence. Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette says we already made Rodgers an offer, but he's taking his sweet time deciding, which makes the Rudolph signing feel like a break glass in case of emergency move, don't you think? Let's keep it real, Steelers Nation. If both Rodgers and Wilson say no thanks, who's left? Sure, we could roll with Mason Rudolph, but is that really a winning strategy? In his time with the Steelers, Rudolph holds an 8-4-1 record, which is decent. But does that scream Super Bowl contender to anyone? I'm not so sure. The NFL draft? Well, per Tankathon's latest mock, we might be targeting Texas QB Quinn Ewers in the 3rd round, pick 83. But let's be honest, expecting a rookie like Ewers to step in and light it up right away? That's a stretch, especially behind an O-line still looking to fully gel. So here's the scenario. If Rodgers and Wilson pick other teams, we're potentially looking at a QB competition between Rudolph and a rookie. Maybe even throw in a guy like Gardner Minshew? Steelers Nation, I don't know about you, but that makes me nervous. All right, now let's pivot for a second, because there's more to this off-season drama. The Steelers made a blockbuster trade to bring in wide receiver DK Metcalf. And look, when that news dropped, we all got hyped, right? Finally, a big-bodied WR to pair with George Pickens. But here's the thing. Some concerning news just broke about Metcalf that's got fans whispering. Matt Harmon, one of the top analytical minds at Yahoo Sports and Reception Perception, did a deep dive on Metcalf's 2024 season. And guess what? Metcalf had his worst contested catch rate ever. Just 40%. That's the lowest Harmon has charted for DK in any season. Let me break that down. Metcalf, for all his size and speed, was losing jump balls he should be winning and struggling to create separation against defenders. Steelers Nation, we brought this guy in to be a dominant outside force, and now we're hearing he had trouble getting open and fighting for the ball? That's concerning. Now, Harmon isn't saying Metcalf is washed up. Far from it. The dude can still blow past an entire defense, and that's huge. But he also pointed out something else. Metcalf has picked up some bad habits, like drifting on routes and sloppy execution against zone coverage. His success rate versus zone, just 71.3%, which puts him in company with a lot of struggling WRs last season. Steelers Nation, I know what you're thinking. Did we make a mistake trading for him? I don't think so. Not yet. The guy still has 438 receptions for 6,324 yards and 48 touchdowns in his career. He's a playmaker, no doubt. But if our QB situation is a mess and Metcalf is having separation issues, that could be a disaster waiting to happen. Let's not forget, Metcalf is now paired with George Pickens, who's another alpha dog, right? These two could be the scariest WR duo in the league, or they could clash and underperform if things don't click with the quarterback. Both Metcalf and Pickens have a reputation for being fierce, competitive, emotional players, and sometimes that's great. Other times, it can derail an offense. So it all comes back to who's throwing them the ball. And right now, we don't know if that's going to be Rodgers, Wilson, Rudolph, or a rookie. Let's dive right into it, Steelers Nation, because this story is heating up fast. Just earlier, this week, I'm talking as recent as Tuesday, the word around the NFL was that teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans, and New York Giants were only considering Russell Wilson as a backup option, like a fallback plan if the Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins situations didn't pan out. But guess what? Everything's changed and fast. On Wednesday, news broke that Russell Wilson is set to meet with both the Browns and the Giants, and now it looks like teams are reevaluating their stance on Wilson. He's gone from being a maybe to potentially one of the top available QBs on the market, and that could include our Pittsburgh Steelers. So why is this happening? According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Wilson has way more options than people thought. Here's what Schefter said on 97.1. The Fan. Russell has options. So Russell is sifting through what he wants to do. If Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh or New York, Russell might have more leverage somewhere else. Let me pause there, Steelers Nation. That's a huge statement, because it suggests Wilson is not desperate, and teams are starting to see him as a real solution at QB, not just a plan B. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Everyone knows the Steelers have been linked to Aaron Rodgers for weeks now. Reports say the team already made Rodgers an offer, but he hasn't decided yet. In fact, Jerry Dulac from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette confirmed that Rodgers is still taking his time to figure out his future. But get this. According to multiple reports, Rodgers is intrigued by the Minnesota Vikings, and he's apparently interested in starting over their rookie J.J. McCarthy, who spent all of 2024 recovering from a meniscus repair. That throws a wrench into things for the Steelers, because if Rodgers picks Minnesota, what's Pittsburgh's next move? Enter Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins drama adds more confusion. And if that wasn't enough, let's not forget about Kirk Cousins. Word is the Cleveland Browns are very interested in Cousins because of his previous connection with head coach Kevin Stefanski. But hold on. The Atlanta Falcons are also in the mix, and they're considering keeping Cousins as a backup to Michael Penix Jr. unless another team makes a move for him. So, we're looking at a situation where Rodgers might be gone to Minnesota, Cousins might stay in Atlanta or head to Cleveland, and suddenly, Russell Wilson looks a lot more appealing, right, Steelers Nation? Now, here's something that no one expected a week ago. Some teams might even prefer Wilson over Rodgers. Yeah, I said it. And here's why. Rodgers didn't exactly light it up with the Jets in 2024, and after an injury-plagued season and some less-than-elite performances, some teams are wondering if he's still got it. Meanwhile, Wilson is no longer the MVP candidate. He was in Seattle, but he still showed flashes in Denver, and for a team like Pittsburgh, that just needs solid quarterback play to make a deep run. He might be good enough. According to Schefter, he's not in any rush to make a decision. People might think, okay, he's the second choice. He's stuck. I don't think it's quite that way. I think Russell's got some options in play, so this isn't just about teams settling for Wilson. He's in the driver's seat in this QB carousel. And that includes Pittsburgh. Let's break it down, Steelers Nation. We all want that next franchise QB, but if we're being real, finding an elite quarterback in the draft is a gamble, even if you pick one early. Look at some of the names floating around. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. Good prospects, but are they ready to take the reins in 2025? Maybe not. So a bridge quarterback like Russell Wilson makes a ton of sense if we're drafting someone to develop. And let's not forget, with George Pickens, DK Metcalf, and Pat Freiermuth on this offense, we don't need a hero at QB. We need someone who can make the throws and manage games. And Wilson can absolutely do that. So here we are, Steelers fans, sitting on a huge question mark at QB, and now even some doubt creeping in about our new WR1. If Rodgers and Wilson choose other teams, are we really ready to go to battle with Mason Rudolph? And can DK Metcalf bounce back and be the dominant weapon we need him to be? Listen, I want to hear from you, Steelers Nation. Who should be the starting QB in Week 1? Are you worried about Metcalf's numbers, or do you think he'll shine in Pittsburgh? Can Rudolph hold down the fort if we miss on the big names? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get this conversation going. And if you made it this far, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a breaking story.